Hey guys, welcome to the first real Devlog episode. Before we go over the gameplay loop of Rootbound, I wanted to explain what it is that I'm showing you today. Right now we're building a so-called vertical slice. If you imagine Rootbound as a cake, we are cutting a piece out of that cake and only baking that piece. Because as every baker knows, it is way easier to only bake a slice of cake. If you try to bake everything at once, you can easily end up with a cake disaster. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not really a baker, but that is how I imagine a baker would think. The gameplay loop is not what you would expect at first glance. The best way I can describe the gameplay is as a mix of Subnautica, Death Stranding, and Breath of the Wild. You are probably wondering what the f is he on about? That's completely understandable. Let me show you the gameplay and let's see if you can see these comparisons for yourself. The vertical slice throws a player right into the game without any sort of tutorial. This is because the vertical slice is supposed to show the game a few hours after the game started, with all its basic features already unlocked. Let's stop the game for a second and look at the interface. We have the basic Zelda-like health bar and quick slots. I don't think I have to explain these, but the clock in the corner is a bit special. As you can see, right now the time is locked. The day will never end. But if we fast forward until I leave the safe zone, the clock unlocks and the day starts to progress rather rapidly. If we fast forward a bit more, it suddenly gets dark. The nights in Rootbound are endless. At least for now. We have changed this feature about 500,000 times while prototyping the gameplay loop. I really hope we don't alter this feature again.
I am altering the
game design.
Pray I don't alter it any further.
The only way to see the next day is to rest at a bonfire. The player has the unique ability to sacrifice items at a bonfire to prolong the next day. If you want a video about the lore and the background stuff of Rootbound, drop a like. We already looked at how the time stops when the player is inside a safe zone. But this is not all they do. If I have a skill core, that grey box thing here, and I put it on a rune slot in the backpack, it gets activated. This is the core of Levitus. This core gives me the ability to levitate things as long as I'm in a safe zone. Honestly, it would be pretty lame if the player could only use their skills while in the base. That is why we implemented crafting. So the player can craft torches and bonfires and stuff like that themselves and place them wherever they want in the world. All of them emit the same kind of safe zones and give the player the ability to use their cores. As you can probably see by now, I can easily extend the daylight timer from like 60 seconds to basically as long as I want, if I play carefully. In this scene here, I try and get to the red crystal up there. To do this, I have to place a torch. That activates my core of Levitas and gives me the ability to bring these planks in place, which let me walk up there. But because I can only craft torches at a bonfire, it would be pretty handy if I could just take one with me. That is where the red crystal comes into play. I can use this to craft a bonfire kit. With a bonfire kit, I can place a bonfire wherever I want. Kits like the bonfire kit are very useful in Rootbound. In our vertical slice, we have only 3 types of kits. The torches are your bread and butter safe zones. You can place them with a single button click and you have more than enough materials to really make use of them. So don't use them sparingly. Then you have the bonfires. Their radius is not huge, but you can sacrifice items on them and rest for the next day, which makes them really useful as a temporary base of operation where you always can come back to. Last but not least, there are totems. Totems are basically torches on steroids. They just make a huge safe zone, but you need a few more materials to be able to craft them. These are the kits we have right now in the vertical slice, but for the finished game we want a lot more. We are thinking about
We're thinking.
What are you thinking about?
Stuff like bridges, ladders, zip lines. We want the player to get the abilities to really make the world their own. What I mean with that is we want the player to create routes to frequently use bonfires or build shortcuts to respawning resources. We're also thinking about things like signposts or something to mark the world with in some kind of way. because we don't plan on having any kind of map or quest markers or fast travel points. We need the player to somehow mark the world itself. But we haven't tested this yet, and we will see if this works. So, this is the core gameplay loop of Rootbound. As I said, we are creating a vertical slice of the game, and we are pretty proud of what we have achieved so far, but there is still a lot missing. For example, we have these backpack upgrades, these hot water bottle looking things. They can expand the insides of your backpack, make your inventory bigger. At the moment, they just randomly expand your backpack, but one of our design philosophies is to never give the player something to do without a choice. So our design looks more like this. The player will find these water bottle looking things and they have to bring them home. At the base they can open them and they get one of these shapes out of them. There will probably be a lot more of these shapes, like a Tetris-like T-block and stuff like that, but these are the shapes we are implementing for now. And when the player collected some of these, they can go into an editor and add these shapes to their backpack. They can only add these shapes to predefined slots, but they can freely rotate them. At least that is the idea. If we ever get to implementing this, I make sure to let you know. Another thing that is not finished by far is the combat. We have a lot of stuff in the game. As you can see, we can equip almost everything in the world as a weapon, be it a huge skeleton, a weapon, a stone, or even an enemy if the enemy is light enough. This will not work with every enemy, but for the smaller ones it does work because we really never want to break with the systems the game provides. But alas, we don't have many enemies yet. We have the ooze and we have this spiky looking turtle here. The turtle has the unique ability to steal your backpack if it charges into you, but they do so much damage that we're considering leaving it out of the vertical slice because, frankly, we don't need them for the game to be working. Maybe the turtle is just part of the rest of the cake and not the slice we're baking. The last thing that is missing for a finished vertical slice is the interface art in general. All interfaces you've seen so far are just dummy graphics. Even if the clock, the health bar and the adventure boxes look finished, there are only tests and we notice they don't fit at all with the rest of the aesthetics of the game. So we want to change them to really make them fit in to the rest. We made these mock-up graphics to show how the interface should look. Dialogue choices, for example, are supposed to be these little thinking bubbles and we want them to move around a bit like this, just not as shit. In general, we want all interface elements to be in the same pixel grid as the game itself, to give all of it a cohesive look. This is a tough nut to crack though. And we still have to research a bit how we want to actually do that. There are several routes we could go. We could create all interfaces as vector art and then pixelate them at runtime. This would have the benefit of making sure that the pixels are always aligned with the grid of the game. The downside of this would be that we don't have much control which pixels are actually get drawn and which don't. The other route we could go is to create the interface as pixel art in the first place. This would give us full control over which pixels are visible and it would look exactly as we want it to, but the downside is I would have to draw them. And I can barely draw my name. Why did I do that? That's not getting out. What's wrong with me? I did all the interface art myself until now and pixel art is a whole nother beast. But whatever way we're choosing, we need to have a finished interface to finish the vertical slice. Then there is the music and the sound effects. For the music, we have a wonderful composer and I'm sure she will deliver something spectacular, so I'm not really worried about that. So we are set on the music part. But sound effects are something different. Marky makes our sounds and already looked into the whole topic. It is quite challenging to make a soundscape for physics-based games. You can't just play a sound when a crate hits the ground. This would sound unrealistic. The crate will sound completely different if it lightly touches the floor or if it crashes into a wall. And in that example, I'm not even considering like medium fast flying crates. How the fuck do you even do this? We have no idea. At least I have no idea. Maybe the others already have figured it out. We have to research this and figure out if we somehow need to calculate the sounds or something, change them depending on impact strength or velocity, maybe dynamically adjust volume or pitch or something like that. We don't know yet. And that's about it for the missing features of the vertical slice. As a little reward, because you watched till the end, I want to invite you to test out Rootbound for yourself. At some point we will need testers who can give us feedback and stuff. I don't know when that will happen, probably not in the next couple of months, but it will happen sometime. If you are interested in playtesting Rootbound and want to get notified the moment we are giving out keys, I would like to invite you into our Discord. The link is in the description. And I will see you next time.